Well, let me ask one more question, just to add to one region to your litany of regions, which is there's been a lot written recently that the Taliban is resurgent in Afghanistan, that there seems to be much more, in part as a reaction to the rise of Iran, that the Pakistani, or elements of the Pakistani government, are encouraging the Taliban are encouraging the Taliban in Afghanistan. How worried should we be about what's happening with Afghanistan? How worried should we be that the Pakistani government seems to be operating in ways seem to be inconsistent with what we would want them to be doing? And as another region of the world that is potentially has exported trouble and chaos before, are we facing sort of dark days ahead of us in Afghanistan?
Yes, we should be very worried. Now, you pointed something else which is important, which is unfortunately the face of Iran's president and the bogey of Iran has allowed our regional allies to do things or get away with things they wouldn't have. So, if it wasn't for Iran, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, or Egypt could not mention the word nuclear program. They probably always wanted it. They didn't dare ask for it. Now the excuse of Iran is there that they all want nuclear capability. Once they get this nuclear weapons, more than likely it's going to be pointed at Tel Aviv, not at Tehran. They're getting arms deals with the US and UK that previously would have raised eyebrows in this town. But now because of the bogey of Iran, they're getting deals that they wouldn't have. And it's the same with the Taliban. I mean, the Pakistanis are committed to Taliban not because of Iran. Iran is the excuse for them to get away with it. Pakistanis were never on board with what happened in Afghanistan. I mean, this is again another irony that our biggest enemy in Afghanistan, like in Iraq, Iran, has more of a vested interest in what we did. And our ally, Pakistan, has nothing to gain from what happened in Afghanistan. This was a country that they owned through the Taliban. They lost Afghanistan. India, their arch adversary, has become far more influential in Afghanistan. And the Pakistanis believe that they have the opportunity to roll back. But they don't have anything to play with other than the Taliban. Essentially what the Pakistanis want is probably for the Karzai government to go, for the Taliban to be represented in Kabul, and for southern Afghanistan to become once again a Pakistani playground. But they look at us, hobbled in Iraq, and they believe that there's not much we can do about it. And the Pakistanis obviously have a president that has a sort of a soft face for Washington and Europe. They play this game that they are also victims of terror in Pakistan. But end of the game, what President Musharraf is telling Washington, what are you going to do? Right. And the answer is we can't, because really standing up to the Taliban means massive troop deployment to Afghanistan, which we cannot afford while we're involved in Iraq. And ultimately also politically, it's very difficult for us to make even a deal of saying, okay, we're going to bring 3 or 4 Taliban ministers or cede this territory to you. But the reality is, until the day where the Pakistanis have a vested interest in Afghanistan, they're not going to collaborate. Right. And right now, they think the Karzai government is pro-Indian. When you talk to Pakistanis, they always tell you that the one statistic that matters to them is that India has 13 consulates in Afghanistan. Under the Taliban, it had none. So, this is all about their rivalry with India. It's not about us. And we try to force everybody under this rubric of war on terror as if everybody's interest is the same as ours. Right. And that's not the case. And I would be very worried, because Pakistan is a country of 150 million people with a lot of radical ideas and jihadis within it, with nuclear capability, bordering on a lawless or very soon lawless territory now with the sort of border regions in Afghanistan, and with a president who is now entering a phase of unpopularity, facing a democratic surge in his own country. So with Pakistan becoming more and more of a problem, I would think that this year we're going to see a whole new headache for the United States coming forward.
Listen, you've been very generous with your time. Are there any final thoughts you have before we end? Vali?
No, thank you for inviting me and for providing me with this opportunity to have this discussion with you.
Well, the most important part about our time together is that Vali and I were at Tufts together many
That's
years
right.
ago.
That's right.
And actually, he taught a class of mine. We didn't figure this out until a few months ago. And you're going to be going back to Tufts
That's correct.
in the fall, and your kids are going to learn what snow is all about.
That's right, and you're there already, so we'll have more opportunities to collaborate on our alma mater.
Yeah, well, listen, thank you, Vali, so much.
Thank you.
And I'm really very grateful for your time. And this is the first in a series of interviews we'll be doing. Let us know what you think. If you have any suggestions of folks you'd like to see us interview in the future, let us know. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.